No.
Not playing it? Okay.
My earliest ever experience in Monster Hunter was in Try. No.
Not playing it? Okay.
My earliest ever experience in Monster Hunter was in Try. And the only game I ever actually played at all was 48. Like the earliest game I played at all.
Because I don't want to look it up. I don't want to use the wiki to play the game. But I do want to figure out... I have a thing that I found...
Welcome, Baryonyx.
What?
This person's in chat called Baryonyx.
Speaking of
Awesome.
burying things, there's a thing that I found in Monster Hunter 2 that says I need to bury it. And I don't know where or how I am supposed to do that.
I don't know, probably in something's nest.
Oh, maybe. That's a good idea.
Today I was looking at some Hyneria specimens, which was really cool. That is a seriously big fish, with a surprising amount of detail preserved in its bones. Who among my friends are live? It Was Friday and Kronos are both online. I don't know if I want to join up with It Was Friday at the moment. What are your thoughts on the Jurassic Park / World movies? I think they're good. I enjoy them. I wish they were more accurate, but that's kind of a tired opinion. I wish every depiction of dinosaurs was perfectly accurate, but that's kind of a bad wish. I just wish they wouldn't claim to be accurate and then kind of double back and not do it. Like, they often talk about updating their designs for accuracy, but it's rarely ever for a reason besides publicity, and they often only do the bare minimum in terms of adjustments. But I don't hate the movies. I think they're great. Most of them. Some of them. That's true. That is true, the Kaiju Global. I don't think they need to conform to accuracy per se. But I think accuracy should be the baseline expectation. And I think deviations from accuracy should be acknowledged and discussed. Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, yeah, exactly. But the thing is, Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal is very clearly not accurate. Jurassic Park, the story elements kind of require the dinosaurs to be accurate because it's a movie about the unpredictability of animals. And the consequences of placing animals into ecosystems where they don't belong.
Wow, it's just like Arkveld in Monster Hunter
Oh my
Wilds.
god. What's your opinion on the Ankylosaurus? I really like Ankylosaurus. It's a great animal. I think it's super cool. I've never worked on a Thyreophorine before. Well, I never worked on an Ankylosaur before. I have worked on Stegosaurus, but I've never worked on a Cretaceous Thyreophorine. Only Jurassic stuff.
Back to the depictions of dinosaurs in media thing. I feel like dinosaurs are kind of simultaneously filling a role of, like, actual animal and mythological creature. Or, like, yeah. Mythological creature to a certain extent. Because of, like, all of the misconceptions about them kind of crystallizing into their own thing.
Yeah. This person says, is the pinwheel shark a dinosaur? So no, Helicoprion is not a dinosaur. It's also not a shark. It is a chimera. Not in the sense that it is an assemblage of unassociated fossil bones. It is a chimera in the sense that that is the name of the group of animals it's part of. Chimeras are a kind of cartilaginous fish that live in the deep sea primarily, but Helicoprion is what is the family called? Eudontogenid. Yeah, it's a eudontogenid, which are a kind of holocephalin, which are cartilaginous fish that are somewhat related to sharks, but they're kind of off doing their own thing with teeth arranged rather than in symmetrical rows on either side of the head. They are either in one jaw or both jaws arranged sequentially in just one row on the bottom or the top.
Do we know why that happened?
for chopping up soft-bodied animals.
Oh, interesting.
They were probably eating invertebrates. Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
Orthoprion. Holy bookmark. I need everybody in chat to look up orthoprion ornithoprion. Oh my gosh.
That is
Where is the description? When was this animal discovered? What is the description paper on this? This was found in 1966?
Huh.
People have known about this animal in 1966 and I've never heard of it?
Interesting.
Alien Canthus. Okay. What's your favorite ice cream flavor? I like Rocky Road. Oh my gosh, welcome back, LA Listing Photography. How's it going? If Giganotosaurus was larger than T-Rex, why wasn't it stronger, especially if it hunted sauropods? Giganotosaurus was not as large as T-Rex. It was significantly less massive, and I don't know if you mean, what do you mean by why wasn't it stronger? Like, why didn't it have more body muscle mass? I don't know if that's true. If it is true, it's because it was a lighter animal. My favorite paleoartists are, I like Brian Eng a lot. I like Joshua Knoop. I like John Tedrick when he does paleoart, but that's very rare. I always have to shout out C.M. Kozeman. My fact about Ankylosaurus is that in terms of the osteology of the tail, the bones in the tail are fused together past a certain point. So instead of being like a whip with a ball on the end, it functions more like a club, like a mace. What is the coolest dinosaur? Acrocanthosaurus attokensis.
See, I'm going to disagree with you on that one, but
That's because my roommate's wrong.
that's because...
Yeah, Giganotosaurus was taller
okay.
but not as beefy, but we measure dinosaur size by body mass.
Fair enough.
Do you think Tyrannosaurus would fare in the Cenozoic essentially scientifically inclined primal? I don't think it would fare particularly well, just because the ecosystem is vastly different than anything I can imagine a T-Rex thriving in. I mean, depends on where, but the climate in general is just kind of a lot more temperate. And basically all the predator niches were occupied by stuff that was used to taking smaller prey. By stronger, I meant bite force. Well, that's just because T-Rex is just stronger than Giganotosaurus because it has a heavier, larger skull. Did you take AP Biology? I did not take any AP classes because my high school didn't offer them.
That's unfortunate.
This person says, I hate people who like to compare spines to T-Rexes. I think the whole who would win in a fight arguments about animals are kind of strange. What period has the largest dinosaurs? The Cretaceous, I think, because of titanosaurs. How do you feel about Jurassic World 4? I'm low-key hyped because it's the writer from Jurassic Park 1 and 2 is working on it. Yeah, I'm also excited about that. I hope they'll do something interesting. I'm excited because it's directed by Gareth Edwards, and he did the 2014 Godzilla movie, which I thought was really great.
Oh, nice.
He also did Rogue One, which I found out the other day.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully it'll...
Don Zombie says, don't skip my question. I didn't see your question, Don Zombie. My apologies. I'm trying to scroll back, but if you could retype it, I'll get to it. Yeah, he did Rogue One. I liked Rogue One.
That was a good movie. I think I saw it in theaters like 3 times because people kept inviting me to go see it with them.
Peso, it's a good movie. Peso says, are you much of a pterosaur person? I'm a pterosaur person. I like pterosaurs. T-Rex wins in any confrontation with Spinosaurus. I don't think that's true. I think I can imagine at least 100 scenarios in which either one of those species unilaterally obliterates the other because probably the biggest factor in animal conflict is how the environment benefits them. Did more oxygen in the atmosphere help make the animals bigger? In the Carboniferous, maybe. In the other periods, definitively no. Isotope analysis yields very similar oxygen levels today, and dinosaurs weren't around during the Carboniferous. Yeah, the Vader scene in Rogue One was really awesome.
Oh, yeah, that was really good.
It's also their bedtime live stream, yeah. Spinosaurus was made to live in water. Yeah, I mean, it certainly lived in fluvial environments, but it wasn't by any means a powerful swimmer. What do you think of the Therizinosaurus? I think it's really rad. I love Therizinosaurus. I think it's super funky how it has a super enlarged hallux on its toes, like on its foot. I mean, so it has like really unique footprints. Pretty sure their intentions are to re-dinosaur the parrots I'm putting to bed. Absolutely. Your parrots are already dinosaurs, which means I've succeeded. But yeah, like, when it comes to arguments, Spinosaurus, would you agree with Thomas Holt and Paul Sereno that it was a shoreline generalist? I think Paul Sereno takes a really strong anti-aquatic stance, which I think is partially justified. I think it was probably more, like, less aquatic than Ibrahim suggests, because he said that it was a tail-propelled swimmer. I think the tail at most was used for stabilization, and it was most probably used for display. I don't think Spinosaurus necessarily would have spent loads of time outside of water. I do think that the bone density research was a little bit less precise than could have been done. And the lack of actual data in terms of what Spinosaur vertebrae looked like and how we can associate them with ecology makes this difficult. However, I don't think Spinosaurus was entirely terrestrial. I definitely think it would have gotten in the water a little bit. Thoughts on Cryolophosaurus? It's cool. I've drawn a lot of Cryolophosauruses in the past. I love this like basal diastema having theropods. Utahraptor equals best dinosaur. I'm sure for you it does. I do love Utahraptor.
What are some dinosaurs you wish people brought up more? Because I feel like we keep going over the same dinosaurs a lot.
I wish people brought up more stuff about sauropods and ornithischians in general. I mean, like any of the weird ornithischians, all the early theropods are really cool. Yeah, the tail didn't seem like it would have helped. Comparative anatomy is cool. It is cool. Where do you get most of your dinosaur knowledge from? College classes, reading textbooks, and reading papers. Did you ever read Horner's Raptor Red? Nope, it's still in my cart. I need to read that. Most underrated dinosaur? Psittacosaurus. What dinosaur would you consider overrated? None of them. I think every dinosaur is loved less than it should be.
See, I thought you were going to say Psittacosaurus for that one as well.
No. I used to study dinosaurs for fun. One of my favorites is the Tiktaalik. So Tiktaalik is unfortunately not a dinosaur. It's a very cool prehistoric animal. I've had some brief interactions with the guy who discovered Tiktaalik.
I saw the holotype specimen of Tiktaalik in a museum a little bit ago.
I was also there, and I also saw the holotype specimen of Tiktaalik. It's really beautiful. Chirostenodes is underrated. Absolutely. Chirostenodes used to be my favorite. Do you like the Pachycephalosaurus? Yes. Do you have any dinosaur paleontology book recommendations? All Yesterdays by C.M. Kozeman and others. Vertebrate Paleontology 3rd edition by Michael J. Benton. Bringing Fossils to Life by Donald Prothero.
Oh,
Mason King says, Jesus loves you. Yeah, but I broke up with him already, so...
There was a...
I don't really want him to come back to me. How do you feel about Godzilla? I think Godzilla's sick. I've seen a lot of the Godzilla movies. I think I've seen all of them multiple times, actually, now that I think about it. Thoughts on Jurassic Park, the book versus the movie? I prefer the book. But that's just because I can imagine the dinosaurs as being as accurate as possible in the book, and you can't do that with the movie. What's a dinosaur that you don't like that's going to make people mad? I don't like the look of Psittacosaurus. Coelophysis, which media depiction is your favorite? It's far from the most accurate, but I love the Walking with Dinosaurs Coelophysis. It's just so iconic. The colors are so good. What is your favorite dinosaur? Acrocanthosaurus, baby! Eutyrannus supremacy? Yeah, Eutyranosaurus is awesome. How come Therizinosaurus and Deinonychirus are both considered theropods? Well, because their ancestors are theropods. You can't evolve out of a clade. Therizinosaurus and Deinonychirus are both Maniraptor and theropods like the raptors. They have theropod hips, they have theropod feet, they have theropod hands. And we have a pretty clear lineage of their evolution and specialization out of the related theropod groups that they're in. How outdated is Walking with Dinosaurs in 2025? Pretty outdated. Oh my god, it's 2025.
Yep.
Yeah. Walking with Dinosaurs does not hold up super well in terms of science. What it does hold up well in is depicting its creatures as really genuine animals. Do you know anything about the Tully monster? Yes, I do. I actually had a conversation with an invertebrate paleontologist today about whether or not she thought the Tully monster was a vertebrate and an Opabinia was a vertebrate. And she said that she thought, and I'm going to trust her opinion way more than mine, that Tully monster is probably a vertebrate and Opabinia is probably an invertebrate. Thoughts on Eodromius? I think it's cool. What's the deal with Chunkingosaurus? It's an interesting early, I think it's one of the earlier thyreophorans. When did Chunkingosaurus show up? Yeah, it's a late Jurassic thyreophoran, so it is kind of early in terms of their radiation. It's a Wyangasaurid, which is the group of stegosaurs that have, like, the shoulder spikes, I believe. I don't know if that includes some that don't have shoulder spikes. But... Oh. No, it does include... It includes stegosaurians. What's your favorite dinosaur? Acrocanthosaurus. What's up, Bells? Loch Ness Monster / plesiosaur, is it real / plausible? Not real, not plausible. The Loch Ness cannot support a large aquatic reptile. Thoughts on Chicxulub? It definitely happened. If you think cassowary didn't... Do you think if... they want to know if you think cassowary just didn't fully bird and got stuck somewhere? No, actually. Cassowaries, like all the ratites, are actually descended from flying ancestors. So there were groups of ratites, which are like the big flying birds, or the big flightless birds, that flew to the places where you see modern flightless birds, and then just lost the ability to fly and got big as a consequence of that. So emus, ostriches, cassowaries all share a flying common ancestor. And they all lost flight in different ways. Do you think megaflora and fauna could re-evolve on the Earth within the life of human species? Not re-evolve naturally per se, because human-created conditions significantly discourage the evolution of megafauna. Do you think any cryptids are real? I don't think there is sufficient scientific evidence for any cryptid, because that's why they're called cryptids. I hope more than think that the Siberian mammoth populations are real.
Would you consider the giant squid to be a cryptid?
No, that's a documented taxon.
Was it a cryptid before it became documented?
Yeah.
I feel like that maybe counts, but also maybe not. I don't know. Once you have evidence, I guess it stops being a cryptid.
Yeah, it's a very mutable status. I might get a part-time job as a tour guide in a museum, however, I still absolutely need to seek higher education. Good thing to do. You'll get some connections, and they'll definitely give you advice on where and how to go about it. What are some things that I should do now to get in the position you are now? Definitely get to know your museum people. If you can, eat lunch with the folks who work at that museum, and just sort of build connections with them, and you can fall on them for advice very well. The horseshoe crab is technically a dinosaur due to existing back then. That is not true. Dinosaur is a taxonomic group. It doesn't refer to an organism, a set of organisms that occupied a specific time period. It refers to a set of characteristics that an organism has. So nothing is a dinosaur that doesn't fulfill the characteristics required to be a dinosaur, which are entirely morphological, not chronological. Am I a dinosaur? No. Yeah, giant squid are confirmed cryptids. Are confirmed they're not cryptids. I love you, dinosaur guy. Thank you, Protag. Mosasaur versus Megalodon. Who is winning? Probably Megalodon. Do you think the uncanny valley originates from us interacting with human species? I think it more likely originates from us interacting with corpses, particularly because there doesn't seem to be anything that stopped friendly and even sexual interactions from occurring between humans and other species. What's the gayest dinosaur? The secretary bird. Which is the coolest dinosaur? Acrocanthosaurus atokensis. Is the study of cryptids at all respected? A little bit, but not really. I mean, as long as it's genuine science, it is fairly well respected. But the second it starts becoming really obvious that the paper is trying to fudge results to justify the existence of a cryptid, the reason that they're cryptids at all is because scientific consensus sits against them. Violating scientific consensus is not necessarily frowned upon, but trying to violate scientific consensus by doing bad research absolutely is. Hardest to pronounce dinosaur name, not a dinosaur, but Parapropaleohopalophoros. If you're just going for dinosaurs, Qingdaosaurus is difficult to pronounce. It doesn't sound like it's difficult to pronounce, but if you read it on a screen for the first time, you'll understand what I mean. It's spelled Tsintao saurus, which reads as Tsintao and not Qingdao if you only speak English. Do you think dinosaurs would evolve? How do you think dinosaurs would evolve if the dinosaurs never went extinct? How do you feel when Saurophagan X was invalid and now a sauropod? It's not invalid. It's just had its family reassigned. So, I mean, the science marches on. Some people don't think it's entirely a sauropod. Its remains are being reassessed. What do dinosaurs have to do with gay people? Well, there are gay dinosaurs, if you want to start with that. But I think what's more important is that this is a space where queer people who are often really heavily harassed and kind of kicked out of discussions and stuff on the internet and in person have a spot to talk about science and, not have their identity be a point of debate or discussion. Why did you originally get into paleontology dinosaurs? Because dinosaurs are awesome. No, dinosaurs can't shoot venom from their mouth. There's no real evidence for that. You think the dinosaur in your pic looks like the Dracula parrot, ancient ancestor? I love Dracula parrots. Lilith, dinosaurs do exist. They're a currently extant taxonomic category. Unless you're a birds aren't real person, then you could say dinosaurs don't exist, but the clade Dinosauria includes living animals. If you want to say all fossil dinosaurs don't exist, then that's a whole other discussion. But the reality is, it is a taxonomic term which describes animals that currently exist today.
All right, see, you just got me thinking. I'm gonna start coming up with all the details of a new conspiracy theory that dinosaurs are actually planted by the government to cover for birds being government spy drones.
Yeah, there are gay birds. There are gay birds. There are trans birds. My friend has a trans bird.
There are trans birds?
Yeah, Hannah has a trans bird.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a male-born cockatiel, and midway through its life, it just decided to become a female cockatiel. So it still
they're trans chickens.
It still has the male plumage,
yeah,
but it's internally female. It's shifted its testes into being ovaries. I'm not sure if they're functional, cool. But they're hormonally functional. So she has female hormone levels.
Wish my body would do that.
Yeah. Did Megalodon exist with plesiosaurs? No. What weight estimate for Diplodocus would you say is a good number? Depends on the species. Halarum. Let's go with Halarum. I think that's the most common one. Diplodocus halarum was found to be 21 metric tons. Diplodocus carnegiei is found to be, according to Greg Paul, Princeton Field Guide, and Molina Perez, carnegiei is 12 to 15 metric tons. I'm getting a lot of questions right now. If you really want your questions answered, I encourage you to request stuff to be guessed, because I will probably miss it if you type it in chat. Of all the dinosaur documentaries, which is the most enjoyable and the most accurate? I really love Prehistoric Planet, and it fulfills both of those criteria. My biggest problem with Jurassic Park is that they stopped updating the designs after the first movie came out. They didn't change their designs. Sarah Kohler, my favorite dinosaur is Acrocanthosaurus. What is your favorite dinosaur? All right, welcome up, Oblivion. It's good to see you, man. How's it going?
Hey, Drip.
Yeah.
Also, I will have to push back a little bit. They did to an extent when it comes to new designs.
I guess they did. What I'm saying is that I feel like they aren't really sticking to hard science. And I get in Jurassic World, they did retcon and be oh, they look like that because of the frog DNA. But the fact that the dinosaurs in the original Jurassic Park movie look exactly like those dinosaurs were expected to look in the early 90s speaks to me that
and as well as like interviews with people on set, and the general philosophy of the film is that they wanted to present a convincing and accurate image of dinosaurs at the time. And I wish they stuck with that. I don't think they're bad movies because they don't have accurate dinosaurs in them.
Yeah, I will say like they did change design a little, okay, to an extent because like, for instance, the Lost World introduced sexual dimorphism.
They did do that, yeah.
Because like not just with buck and doe, but also with the tiger stripe raptors. The
Yeah.
females have a more lighter coloration, and the males have vibrant orange with black stripes.
Yeah. And the tiger stripe raptors were also significantly smaller, which
That is true.
I'm glad they did that. The main thing is like they were so resistant to do any kind of change to the integument and also a lot of the foot anatomy of most of their dinosaurs, which is not like that is something that basically only the paleontology audience cares about, and it wouldn't make the dinosaurs seem less cool to the general public. Like Triceratops and sauropods having elephant feet has been known to not be really a good way to reconstruct them for a long time. But
Also the lack of padding on the larger theropods like the tyrannosaurs.
yeah, I mean, I think I actually do agree with their choice to make Rexy like super skinny in Jurassic World because she's like malnourished. But I do wish that the T-Rex got like noticeably chunkier.
I mean, it's not also that like there is a side story where it's like going over where Hopkins captured Rexy.
Yeah,
Also, Rexy even then was labeled as very malnourished only due to the fact that she had tooth rot.
really.
Yeah, she had tooth rot. Yeah, she had tooth rot, and because of that, she wasn't really eating.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, the one other thing that I was really interested in, like with Jurassic World, the thing that got me really excited for it when it was coming out is on the website before the movie came out, they had Julius Satonier, who's like a really awesome paleoartist, do this amazing Suchomimus reconstruction.
Yeah, I know. I love it so much, and his baryonyx.
Yeah, and they completely threw him out when they did the designs for Fallen Kingdom, and those are genuinely, I think, his Suchomimus and his Baryonyx would have been the best dinosaur designs in the franchise if they were faithfully adapted. They're so good. Yeah, they're just incredible dinosaur designs. I that is what a lot of my dislike for the Jurassic Park designs does not solely come from them being not perfectly accurate. It comes from them having, I think, a little bit weak art direction and being a little bit uncreative because they're almost restricted by this early 90s image of what a dinosaur would look like, either being very crocodilian or very lizardy. They don't play with interesting integument a lot. They didn't really do anything besides either lizard scales or crocodile scoots until Dominion.
And like even then,
Yeah,
'cause, like if you do like even in the prologue, like the T Rex is literally just Rexy. They just put feathery integument on top.
yeah, and that's what made it like clear to me, being like, okay, they're not really having like a faithful attempt at depicting the species accurately here. They're kind of doing a symbolic degree of it, but the
I mean, my issue.
of Rexy and the Giganotosaurus just like showed to me like, okay, this is not a movie where the accuracy is more than a marketing thing.
And like it kind of sucks for me because like I think one of the best scenes in the prologue, which I think the prologue was the best thing this franchise could ever do,
Yeah, that was
which
one
is
of those
depict
like, part.
yeah, which is just depict the dinosaurs as animals.
Yeah,
Is like the Oviraptor scene. Because like you see the Oviraptor comes in, it's fully feathered. You can see like the light beams through the feathers. Like it is absolutely gorgeous.
that Oviraptor is almost perfect. That's like
Well,
almost
let's take it back. City Patty.
yeah. Okay, is it City Patty?
It's labeled as Oviraptor, but I have friends look at it, and I even look at the behind the scenes. They modeled it heavily off of City Patty.
That makes sense, especially because Oviraptor is not from the United States. Oh no,
I
City
mean,
Patty's also in the Jacocha formation.
yeah, it's just City
Okay.
Petty's more well known, especially when you see like Oviraptors with that dramatic head crest. Like it's usually City Petty.
Yeah, because Oviraptor doesn't have that huge head crest. Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That definitely does look more like City Patty now that I think about it. Yeah, for
Yeah, like
sure.
it's just the face. Like this is why I love Prehistoric Planet. This is why I love Walking with Dinosaurs.
Yeah. I'm so excited for the new Walking with Dinosaurs season.
I am. Did you see that model they made for the Gorgosaurus?
Yeah. Um, I think it's really, really interesting that they went with Gorgosaurus and I think Pachyrhinosaurus again. Yeah, they did. So they're doing like a redo of the 2011
Oh,
movie.
that's cool.
The Gorgosaurus looks really awesome. I don't know how plausible the purple coloring is because colors like that are usually either carotenoids or structural coloration in birds, and I don't know how plausible it would be for like
A non-avian dinosaur to have it.
yeah, usually when we see display pigments on skin or scales. Oh, it is. Oh, it's an Albertosaurus, not a Gorgosaurus. Okay. Um, and I do like the really bright blue eyes. I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing that says definitively there's no way that these animals could have had purple display features. Um, Especially because purple is like very red-ish, and we know that red as a display pigment is super common across theropods.
Yep.
Every theropod we have
Another
for has red.
another one that I'm looking forward to is called Dinosaur Kingdom. It is backed by three paleontologists and an animator, which is going to be the Jurassic Morrison formation.
Really?
Yeah, and it's going to follow the story of three Ceratosaurus brothers.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
My thing that I love, especially when hearing from like the behind the scenes, is they're saying that they're going to make the Stegosaurus scary.
I'm very excited for that. I don't think Stegosaurus has had a proper villain role since like I don't know the '60s. That's gonna be so cool to see like a really frightening herbivore.
And I absolutely lost it because I'm just like, we need to see more depictions of herbivores being terrifying because if we're going to be honest, the ones you have to worry about are the herbivores.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited for that. I'm also excited for Surviving. I know it's been delayed a bunch of times, but that's definitely got me with that. Do you know Kyoryu? This is not like a documentary.
Yeah, it's a video game. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I definitely want to play it when it comes out. It looks super
Yeah,
good.
it's a video game, and they said they're going to make a series.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I'm super happy about that.
Is this a game where you play as dinosaurs?
Yeah, it's a game where you play as dinosaurs in a future version of Tokyo where all the humans have gone extinct.
Fun.
And they're all the dinosaurs are like inspired by like samurai and the
God,
T-Rex
that's
are.
awesome. When is this?
Yeah,
game?
like the T-Rex. The T-Rex is based off of samurai.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
They have
so
they have
cool.
they have Dimetrodon in there, and what I love about the Dimetrodon is they put patterns on it which look like Yakuza tattoos.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't the
my
Dimetrodon like based off
God.
of Oh my god, wait, is that Dromaeosaur Nargacuga?
Holy shit! It is.
That's Nargacuga!
Oh my god.
The Dromaeosaur
That is absolutely Nargacuga.
That's so cool.
That's so cool.
It is. That's what I literally said when I saw it. I was like, "Is that fucking Nargacuga?"
That's so cool.
That's so amazing. Yeah, I definitely want to play this game when it comes out. That's awesome. Yeah, okay, there's a couple people waiting to get up, so I'm going to answer some other questions now. But it was great talking to you, Oblivion.
Yeah, no problem. But
Yeah.
before I go, did you read the paper on the skin integument of the plesiosaur that they had?
Yes, I was so excited about that. I talked about that a couple streams ago.
I thought that was very interesting. That like on its flippers, it had large scalations like you would with sea turtles, but everywhere else it was small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. And if that's the case, I can. Who's to say that it wouldn't apply to pliosaurs since they're closely related?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in what more plesiosaur soft tissue can tell us.
Same.
Yeah. All right. See you, man.
Alrighty.
Good night. Next up, we have the Kaiju Global. Welcome up, the Kaiju Global. What's your question?
I was gonna get on the Jurassic World action with you in Oblivion.
All right. I usually try to only have one guest up at a time to keep conversations orderly. But if you do want to talk about something, I am really here for it. So let me know what you think.
I think I'll just go since Oblivion's gone.
Oh, all right. Sorry about that. Well, you have a good night, though.
You too.
So, yeah. All right. Next up, we have LA listing photography. Very exciting. Yeah. Where Suchomimus is semi-aquatic. Controversial. I think Baryonyx was found to be potentially semi-aquatic and it's related to Suchomimus, but Suchomimus has, I think, less dense bones than Spinosaurus. I don't know. The findings of that paper were difficult to me because they used baryonychines were thought to be slightly more terrestrial. But also in the bone density paper, they used Suchomimus bones as a proxy for baryonychines, which is, a little bit confusing. Just because baryonyx and its ilk are not particularly well known. They have a lot of fragmentary European fossils. Next up is I'm not mad, I'm just perturbed. What's your question? Hello? Hello? You there? Okay. To answer your previous question, I'm not mad, I'm just perturbed. Yeah, I re-invited you, Ellen, listening. Okay, welcome up.
Hi. I don't know what happened last time. I couldn't see my my comments or anything. I was in some kind of purgatory.
Yeah, sometimes it gets weird like that. Sorry about that.
But I wanted to talk to you guys about. I love your artwork, and I wanted to talk to you about some of the paleo artists that you answered my comment about, because I'd never heard of any of those. I guess those are some newer artists, or
Yeah.
so which were the ones that you were saying were some of your favorites?
So Brian Eng is really up there.
Brian Ang.
Yeah, that's Brian and then ENGH.
Oh, okay.
Website is don'tmesswithdinosaurs.com.
Mm-hmm.
And he does these really, really beautiful museum wall murals.
Oh, wow.
A lot of Jurassic stuff. He has super awesome sauropod reconstructions. He illustrated a lot of the stuff for the Aqualops paper, I believe. Like the description paper.
That's cool.
He's done some really amazing stuff, and a lot of his work is traditional, which I love. I love traditional paleo art. I think a lot of it is digital now, which is fine. There's not anything evil about digital art. I do a lot of digital art, but Brian Eng's traditional paint on wall art is awesome. He also does a ton of sculptures, which are, I think, some of the most impactful ways to convey how amazing dinosaurs are is through sculpture.
Yeah.
He did this really awesome Dilophosaurus reconstruction.
Was it the one with the Dilophosaurus in the tree?
Maybe.
Because I love that one. I remember seeing that around a lot. Yeah, sculptures and
He has done some stuff like that.
yeah, like it was sleeping in a tree. I think I remember.
Maybe I don't know if he's done one with it sleeping in a tree, but he's done one where it's laying on top of some of the cycads and stuff. Like the tree is collapsed, nesting in there. Yeah. he's done some really good stuff with Dilophosaurus and is probably like the main like paleo to influence the modern image of Dilophosaurus. Like he did this master guide on how to reconstruct Dilophosaurus's crests in a plausible way, based on like what we have of the fossil material, because for a long time it was assumed that like the suggested reconstruction that was proposed in like the original description was the only way that you could really do it. But he was like, this is not the only arrangement of these bones that is indicated by the fossils. Here's a variety of other options that we could go with, and here's what some of the structure of the bone indicates. And he has this really cool updated image of what a Dilophosaurus's crest would have most likely looked like. So Brian Eng is definitely one of them.
So yeah, like the paleo artists that I grew up with were, you know, like Greg Paul and
Yeah.
Sibik, and do you know have you ever heard of Bob Walters? He did a lot of museum stuff in Philadelphia.
I probably do know about Bob Walters' Paleoart then.
Yeah, he was with us. I don't know if you remember the story I was telling you about Giganotosaurus and how he took it to the Philadelphia Science Academy, but he was part of that team, and I have artist proof of Giganotosaurus that he did for one of Don Lessam's book. It's one of my prized possessions.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I think some of his stuff is still around the Academy of Natural Sciences. I definitely recognize it's not on display anymore currently, but I was in the vertebrate paleontology collection, and in the walls in the offices, there's definitely some of his old stuff that's been moved there.
I think he passed away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a good guy.
No, his stuff is really amazing. Christopher DiPiazza is another. I think that's his name.
DiPiazza, like Dipiaza.
Yes. Yeah, he's a Philly paleo artist. He also plays Magic the Gathering, which is the first thing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he does a lot of watercolor stuff. He's got some really awesome, like, chunky sauropods that he does. Just really, really cool things with very, like, natural color tones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you know, there's so many things that come back to me when I haven't worked for the newspaper for almost 20 years. Well, it's 2008 was when I left. But, you know, coming up to that point, there were, you know, that was when the Jurassic Park movies were coming out and the rides at Universal were coming out, and there were, you know, that was really like the heyday for Paul Sereno was a rock star in paleontology.
Gosh, yeah. No, I remember the early 2000s up to like Paul Sereno was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He was like absolutely my idol when I was first really getting into paleo. I mean, I feel like I have a healthier opinion of him now, but it kind of helps to have that kind of like Indiana Jones figure to look up.
Right. Yeah, totally. That was what he was cultivating, was his Indiana Jones persona, I think. And then I wanted to tell you a story about the group of paleontologists who were working on Giganotosaurus at that time. While I was doing that picture story, were asked, and some of them were friends of Mary, who was the preparator that worked on Giganotosaurus. But they worked at Sony, and they were the original team that was working on the dinosaur movie that ended up at Disney.
Oh, Disney's dinosaur. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I went with them to sit in on with these Rodolfo and was there, and there was this other guy who wasn't a paleontologist, but he was a paleo artist, and he made a lot of films. He made like schlock dinosaur films back in like the 80s, and God, what was his name? I can't remember. If I remember, I'll say it. So we sat in with some of the animators and the artists who were doing that project, and that had originally been like, it was going to be like there wasn't going to be vocal characters or anything like that. It was just going to be like a nature film. And they had some of the most insane ideas for like scenes that they were going to do in this movie that were like, way over the top violent and crazy. But yeah, it was really such a disappointment what ended coming out. I love that movie. I mean, that movie really is, one of the best dinosaur movies to me that there is. But the alternative that was proposed before they actually made that movie was insane. I wish I could tell you some of the names of the artists that were working on it.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm never gonna stop inviting you to come up here and talk because you got plenty of stuff to say. So no pressure.
One of the ones that here's one it just came to me. One of the ones that was working on that was a guy named David Krentz. Do you know who that is?
Oh my God! Wait,
Yeah.
David Krentz?
Yeah. He does. I have a Gorgosaurus sculpture that he did.
Yeah,
That is yeah, I love that. Yeah, he was really awesome.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, this guy's done amazing stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
and he was like one of the leads on that, I believe.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, because he's doing like 3D modeling stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, one of my like my early childhood like formative memories is watching Disney's Dinosaur and getting into a huge blowout with my cousin. He was like, "Oh my gosh, look out! The red T-Rex is coming to get them," and I was like, "No, that's a Carnotaurus. It's a different animal." And he would not have it, and I was like,
that's a T-Rex.
"Yeah, no,
That's fun.
it's completely a different group of theropods altogether." And I was still young when that was happening, but I don't think I've changed that much from that moment. I would have done the same thing.
I don't think you have.
Yeah, I do the same thing to people nowadays. To be honest,
Yes.
I'm not pedantic because I'm into paleontology. I think I'm just kind of a pedantic person, and I happen to be into paleo. Not the stereotype, but
Well, people got to know. It's just like if someone called a Chevy a Ford.
that's very true. That's very true. Yeah. Everyone's got those things that they're super, super passionate about that they cannot stand to be disrespected in that way.
Yeah, I used to go. I have a lot of dinosaur stuff from that time from Mary. I have a pretty awesome collection of casts and stuff. I have the Allosaurus skull that they did, and a juvenile T-Rex foot, and some other like a Therizinosaur claw, and it's a bunch of stuff. Anyway, I used to go to elementary schools around that time and take the dinosaur stuff, and this was like for friends who had kids in class.
Yeah.
And kids are that way though. There was always one kid in the class who would be like, "No, that's wrong," and had all of the facts in their heads about dinosaurs that they could point to. But it was always fun to tell kids, well, what color were dinosaurs, and just to be able to say, oh, they're any color you want. It's really, that's one of the things that I love about dinosaurs for when you're a kid is the imagination of it.
Yeah, but like now, even that's crazy to say because there are kids that are growing up now that are probably born after like the first papers that talked about how we can extrapolate color from dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. That was a long. I mean, we're talking about 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, there's such a huge like knowledge shift. I'm sure there are kids that are walking around now that have heard new things about dinosaurs that are correct.
Right, and if I would go into their class, they would say, "No, you're wrong, Tom."
Kids learn so fast, and they're so passionate about that sort of thing. It's
and that's dinosaurs are such a great gateway to science and STEM and all of it. I mean, I have a lot of friends who come to me with their kids who love dinosaurs, and they grow out of it. But those kids generally, you can see the path that they become interested in so much more than kids that don't like dinosaurs when they're kids.
I'll say it's a great gateway for anyone. Like living living with someone who's studying to be a paleontologist has gotten me into like researching dinosaurs among many other things a lot more than I used to.
Yeah.
It's great to just have that sort of thing to be curious about. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really really awesome.
My ex-wife one time asked me, "How much time do you think you spend thinking about dinosaurs?" And I thought about it. I think that was the first time I really thought about how much I thought about dinosaurs at that time. I've loved dinosaurs my whole life, and I don't think it'll ever go away.
Yeah, and that's honestly that's how it should be. I wake up in the morning, I think about dinosaurs, and that's probably also the last thing I think about before I go to sleep. It's not the only thing I think about by any means, but that's like totally my comfort zone. If I can be thinking about anything, I could.
It's so awesome. It's so awesome to know that there are other people out there.
Yeah, no, it's great. The paleontology community is huge, and while dinosaurs definitely were more of a public interest, however many years ago, like 20 years ago, I think the increasing interconnectedness of the internet has made it so easy to find people who are really, really into dinosaurs. Like,
Yeah.
so it's so easy, surprisingly, to just contact paleontologists um, by email or on social media and just ask them a question or two. Like I had a brief exchange with Tom Holtz the other day. I didn't like speak with him personally or anything, but I just shot him a message and I was like, "Hey, if the holes on Spinosaurus's snout are known to be sensory organs, or are those like just blood vessels supporting lip tissue?" And he sent me a paper about them being sensory organs, and I was like, "Wow, thanks. I couldn't have done that ever ages ago when the internet wasn't a thing."
So if you ever talk to Tom Holtz again, ask him if he remembers Giganotosaurus in New York in 1995.
I definitely will.
Yeah, because he was one of the paleontologists that came up to our room.
Yeah, no,
I checked it out.
he's really awesome. That guy's. I watched one of his recorded lectures the other day. Really,
He was a young guy back then, though.
yeah, and he's still at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those guys are.
Well, thanks for letting me come up, guys. I'll hopefully you'll allow me to give you some more stories sometime because there are so many.
Yeah, of course. And let me know if you ever come to Philly. All right.
All right. Oh, hey, congratulations on your Eagles.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Sorry about your Phillies this year because my Dodgers are going to be monsters, dinosaurs on the field.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see how it is. We'll see how it is.
All right, guys.
See you around. Have a great night. Yeah. Okay. Next up is Debra Dust, and that might be the last guest of the night because I have some homework to do and things. But welcome up. What's your question?
Okay. Other than communicating, what do you think? Wait. Do you think Parasaurolophus, however you pronounce that, used the sound from their horns for mating calls?
Yeah, I think there are two primary suggested functions for the crests of basically all the hadrosaurs and lambeosaurs, and Parasaurolophus obviously being among them, and those are direct sexual selection, which is to say that they would have been involved in courtship. So something about the crest was appealing to a mate, and that's how they would have used it, whether that's the sound it produced or just the way it looks. And the other main suggested one, which I happen to believe is either partially or the primary cause of the diversity of crests that we see in hadrosaurs, is not necessarily direct sexual selection, but species differentiation. So, for example, if you have two species of bird that look very similar and have very similar calls, living in the same area, the rate of interbreeding between those species, even if they're not super related, is going to be very high, and those hybrid offspring are rarely ever going to be viable. Now, if you look at toucans, for example, in South America, the toucans that are not closely related but look very similar have super, super different vocalizations. And in lambeosaurs, particularly, because of their vocalizations are produced by their crests,
Oh, thank you for the roses, Elialistic Photography. I appreciate you very much. The sounds produced by Lambeosaur crests are tied to their shape, which means that an animal. Oh my gosh, thank you. I got 5 tiny dinies. That's awesome. Um, the sound that is produced by their crest is tied to the shape. So you're hitting both of those bases of each species both looks and sounds different. So there's a really, really strong selective pressure on these animals to look and sound different, particularly because multiple species of lambeosaurs are living in similar areas. So, like in China, for example, there's like a fossil site where there's 4 or 5 different kinds of lambeosaurs, and they all have different shaped crests and different size crests, which means that these animals can either look at each other or call at each other and know what species they are. So I think that was probably the main function. I don't deny that they probably also serve some kind of cultural function. I can't imagine that something that ostentatious, something that catchy and flashy wouldn't be used in mating in some way. But I definitely think species differentiation, like you see in birds of paradise, or the shape of bills in toucans, or anything like that, I think that's very much a active selective pressure for the development of those unique crest shapes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad that I was able to answer that question. That was a very cool question to ask. I love talking about species differentiation in herbivorous dinosaurs because that's not ever really something that a lot of people think about. I think when they talk about sexual selection, it's almost entirely in reference to like courtship rituals, which aren't necessarily always the cause.
Before we end for the night, I do
Yeah.
have a question. Someone who we were talking with earlier mentioned there being sexual dimorphism in the dinosaurs in one of the Jurassic
Park
movies.
2, yeah.
Jurassic Park 2.
And Jurassic Park 3.
Okay, so how many like species of dinosaurs do we have enough material of to like demonstrate sexual dimorphism?
That's controversial. Pretty much every dinosaur species has one degree of sexual dimorphism that we can measure for sure, and that's the presence of medullary bone, which appears in female dinosaurs that have laid eggs at least once. Is their bone structure permanently changes after they lay eggs because they pull calcium from their inner bones. So you can do histology on the long bones of egg-laying dinosaurs, which is all dinosaurs. And if they're female, you can guarantee sex them as female, but there's in animals where you don't have a lot of really evident sexual dimorphism, it can be really hard to confirm male from immature female. So honestly, it's kind of stupid that we do this, but pretty much every dinosaur specimen is assumed to be male. Largely because of misogyny in the field, people just subconsciously gender.
That's just kind of a general cultural thing.
Gender dinosaurs as male, which has led to a lot of really kind of bizarre stuff happening. Like Big Al is a female Allosaurus. We know that because we looked at her medullary bone. This impression that this was some young Allosaurus that died before you could find a mate is pretty much entirely incorrect, because this was a female Allosaurus that was old enough to mate, and she did probably lay eggs and laid at least one clutch of eggs in her life. There's not really a ton of evidence because a lot of sexual dimorphism isn't on a bone structure level, despite what some poorly educated folks might tell you.
I was thinking about the species of was it a pterosaur that has like really
they have the tuning
distinct
fork crest.
Isn't there one that's like has really distinct size differences?
Yeah.
Or something?
Well, Pteranodon.
Oh, Pteranodon, yep. I think that's
I use feminine pronouns for the dinosaurs because the Jurassic Park movies too. Yeah.
Nice.
That's a good thing to do. Life finds a way. Yeah, so I believe it is either Pteranodon or Barbarodactylus. I think it's Pteranodon or Nyctosaurus. But Pteranodon is very well sampled. And we do know about bone structure level sexual dimorphism among Pteranodons. And most of that, I think that's a David Peters post. Most of that I think has to do with. Oh my god! I'm trying to find the paper that talks about pteranodon sexual dimorphism.
Then look for it in Google Scholar.
Yeah, well, I wanted to see the image because there's a good figure that I saw. This is just regular Google. But pteranodon sexual dimorphism.
There we go.
Christopher Bennett. Okay. If I don't have access
through
this because of my institution.
Is it locked off?
It's locked off.
Oh my god.
Okay. Well, anyway, we know pteranodon had sexual dimorphism because across the perceived sexes, the crests are different sizes and shapes. And the body size is also different. Has there been any more research on the muzzle morphs for Allosaurus? As far as I'm aware, pretty much all of them are considered to be separate species. At this point, the boxy snout is assigned to Jamadsoni in America and Europaeus in Europe. And the domed snout is assigned to Fragilis in both of those locations. Although I don't know if we find Fragilis in Europe. I think it might just be Europaeus. And then there is an unknown snout-shaped allosaur that is currently called Allosaurus anax. That's known just because it has a much smaller post-orbital boss. By Debrodust. How would the different morphs interact with other theropods? I'm sure they're probably occupying distinct ecological niches. Personally, I don't know how far beyond skull morphology those species are separated, but I imagine because the skull tends to experience the most selective pressure out of any side part of the body, because that's the part that eats. And taking in the most food possible is one of the strongest drivers of selection. I imagine they were probably going after different food, and I don't know if we have enough data to separate the species of Allosaurus within the Morrison Formation by their feeding ecology, just from looking at what we know they ate and what they didn't eat. But is Jamadsoni larger or smaller than Fragilis? Because I think Jamadsoni was before Fragilis. I think the Allosaurus holotype is now assigned to Jamadsoni, but the neotype of Allosaurus is Fragilis, and Fragilis was named first. So Fragilis is the type species of the genus, but I think Jamadsoni has the older specimen. Yeah, that's fine. I will either answer your question in text or record a video when I can. Yeah. I have a good grasp of how good Spinosaurus was at swimming, but what about Baryonychines? Baryonychines are difficult because we have no tail fossils from Baryonychines. We have barely any leg fossils from Baryonychines. They are a nightmare to predict the swimming capability of. There's not really a lot of research on bone density. There's not really a lot of research on tail musculature. So that's a knowledge gap right now in the fossil record. We just have to say, hands up in the air, we just cannot know that much about Baryonychines right now. This person says, what could kill an Ankylosaurus? Depends on the stage of growth. I'm assuming you're talking about a large adult Ankylosaurus.
Big rock.
Have you seen Dinosaur King?
No, I haven't.
Okay, hold on. I have to look this up now. My roommate has never seen... Correct me if I'm wrong, but there are 4 species of Ceratosaurus.
I haven't seen a lot of dinosaur, just paleo media in general.
There are, I think, 3 species of Ceratosaurus. Nasocornus, Dentisculatus, and Magnicornus. But that was just from a quick search. I'm not super familiar with the taxonomy of Ceratosaurus. Okay. Where's this part?
Oh, that is a big rock.
Yeah. Wasn't there a study suggesting T-Rex may have hunted together by luring larger animals to beaches, where adult T-Rexes would be better at swimming / running on sand compared to Triceratops?
Oh my god.
I am not super familiar with that study. I will look into that. Physical evidence of predatory behavior in Tyrannosaurus.
Beach feeding.
Okay, this is 2023. A theoretical analysis of the hypothesis that full-grown theropods had a locomotory advantage in shallow water environment. How has this been cited?
0.
This paper has 0 citations, which makes me tentative to just say that's the way it works based on the abstract. I doubt it, particularly because, we have a lot of fossils of dead stuff that were killed by T-Rex that aren't necessarily in beaches. So we know that's not where it was doing a ton of its hunting. And the earlier growth stages of T-Rex were much, much better at running than adults. So that indicates that the adults were only going after large, slow prey. That is partially true of baryonychines, but that's not really so sure. Could any dinosaurs kill a lone adult Argentinosaurus? I am sure that after a long period of flesh grazing, a group of Carcharodontosaurs could bite it enough to kill it. We know that there's probably some evidence of mobbing behavior among Carcharodontosaurs. There's loads of Mapusaurs that were fossilized together. Whether or not they were living together is one question, but the fact is that they died together and they were probably brought together by food. So I imagine the death or potential death of a sauropod would create a situation in which a bunch of those large Carcharodontosaurs would group up. Switch pants and I. Dun, dun, dun. Allosaurus germadsoni, when was this dated to?
Does it say near the top?
Potentially. It's from the Western Morrison Formation. It's from the Lower Morrison Formation. There's also a study that suggested T-Rex arms became small as a selection pressure from feeding frenzies. That is partially valid. But we would expect to see a pretty... No, I mean the date of the fossil.
Oh, date of the fossil.
Square Cube law states that giant dinosaurs are too heavy to run on land. That's true if you apply a mammalian biomechanics model to them, but we know that dinosaurs were not mammals. They had hollow bones, and they had many air-sac diverticulae across their skeletons, as all archosaurs do, even crocodiles. And so dinosaurs are predisposed to be much larger and better at running for their size than mammals are, just because their bodies weigh less. Yeah, that's definitely true. Abelisaurs are much likely to have exhibited that sort of selection pressure than T-Rex just by looking at their arms, because we don't see like a reduction in complexity of T-Rex arms at all. Yeah. I mean, I think if anything, the dinosaurs would be calling the mammals nerds, because we're the ones who sit around studying them all day. At least some of us do. Yeah, so this is from 2 specimens from Dinosaur National Monument. When was Dino National Monument? Dinosaur National Monument. Okay. More information. Who would win, a woolly mammoth or a tree? Woolly mammoths are known to knock over trees, and that's the main way in which they alter their ecosystem. In fact, what is it that a paleontologist actually does? Like, I mean, an average day. In an average day, well, average days are different depending on if you're in the field or if you're in lab. When I'm doing paleontology research, it's a lot of running models on my computer, imaging specimens, breaking for lunch, checking to see if the models that I was running on my computer worked or if my computer crashed and I need to restart it, then writing up what I found that day, if anything, reading a couple papers to see the direction that research should go in, talking to my coworkers and bouncing ideas off of them to see if I'm going in the right direction because, like I said, I'm not super experienced in this field. I've only been doing research for a little over a year. So, mentorship is necessary in that capacity, but a lot of discussion. They don't weigh less, they weigh more. They actually do weigh less. They're less dense. Are you going to be digging anytime soon? I am. Yeah. I just secured a field position. I'm going to be working on a Cenozoic dig site in the summer. So I'll be looking at some sick mammals. I prefer the Chicago Edmontosaurus mummy. I think it's really cool when we get specimens that are like even just parts of the dinosaur really close to how it would have looked in life. My favorite period is probably Permian or Triassic. I like post-extinction diversity. Permian, Triassic, or Paleogene. My live goal has been achieved. Thank you very much. Thank you, Barefoot Backwoods. I appreciate it. That pushed me over the edge. Do you think pack hunting cats were more common back then compared to modern ones? It's a really good question. Endurance predators like pack hunters, for example, would have probably been more successful then because that exploited the niches of the extant megafauna. However, the presence of the extant megafauna suggests a lack of endurance-based predators, which often form packs. So I'm tempted to say no. Yeah. Do you know much about Dosungoripteros? I know a little bit. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with pterosaur stuff, but I like pterosaurs. How long does it take from discovery to extraction description? That is a great question. It's entirely dependent on what that paleontologist wants to do. Some stuff sits in labs for days before it starts getting written about. Like when Tiktaalik was uncovered, there was like this mad dash to publish the paper as soon as possible because it was so significant. But there are specimens that get put in labs. We have jackets that were made by Edward Drinker Cope sitting in a warehouse in Montana that still haven't been described because there's so many of them. If he's invincible, why can I see him? Yeah. I've been having trouble watching that show because he's invincible. Yeah.
Chameleons.
But yeah, description takes a while.
I should see how many times I can bring the discussion back to Monster Hunter next time we stream.
Yeah. How do you become more familiar with the anatomy of pterosaurs, dinosaurs, etc.? Specifically, I'm sure the answer is obvious. Probably the thing that gave me the most knowledge about pterosaur anatomy was reading the book Pterosaurs by Mark Whitten. I read it, a good chunk of it, and then I had to return to my library and I forgot to get it renewed. And so I have not finished reading it. But from what I read, that book was really good and explained things very clearly. So if you have a local library, see if they can order in a copy of Pterosaurs by Mark Whitten. It's a good guide for general pterosaur anatomy. Mark Whitten has some great insights. He's one of the most prolific pterosaur paleontologists. I remember seeing someone in Peru where the conditions for jacketing were possible, so they had to blank. I'm writing a book and was wondering what dinosaur is closest to dragons in your opinion. Closest thing you have to a classic European fantasy dragon among dinosaurs is Yi-Ki, which is like maybe 15 inches tall. It's a little tiny Scanceriopterygid. It's Yiqi, and that painting was made by an ethno-nationalist.
Oh, I might know who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm talking about Emily Willoughby.
Yep, I thought so.
Who is a paleoartist who is incredibly prolific, but she's also
incredibly
like a really racist person. So don't look at Emily Willoughby's paleoart if you can help it. But Yi-Ki is great. It's an awesome animal. It looks a lot like what you would expect a dinosaur to look like, or a dragon to look like, but it is really teeny tiny. Sent a worker with a 50-pound sauropod leg bone in a backpack. Yeah.
Didn't you say you had to carry?
I had to carry a sauropod leg bone, but it was jacketed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes that's how it is. Sometimes you gotta suck it up. Do prehistoric tiny reptiles would have been like some modern day reptiles with their tails will fall off? I don't know when tail detachment started appearing in squamates, but we do have evidence of tail pathologies that suggest that losing a tail wasn't a grave injury to a lot of prehistoric reptiles in the way that it is to some of the modern reptiles. For example, the Wyoming T-Rex specimen, where the tail is bisected and the animal continued to live a full life, suggests that that sort of injury, even though it's incredibly traumatic for the animal, would not have been anywhere lethal. Are you at university or are you hired, so to speak? I'm both. I work part-time as a researcher, but I am still in my undergraduate education. So there's definitely a lot more for me to learn. I haven't done my postgraduate research yet. Can someone pull a brontosaurus with Troodon? I don't know what that means. Pull a brontosaurus with Troodon. Oh, can someone pull a can someone validate Troodon in the way that they validated Brontosaurus? I doubt it, particularly because the Troodon teeth are like the average troodontid tooth, and they could really belong to any extant troodontid. Can you explain punctuated equilibrium in relation to dinosaur evolution? So punctuated equilibrium is the observation of a trend in evolution where rather than accruing uniformly over time, evolutionary change occurs basically in bursts in responses to environmental change. A great example of that would be these massive explosions of diversity after the periods that separate the geological extinctions, or the geological time periods in the Mesozoic. So, like at the end of the Triassic, there were not a lot of dinosaurs compared to the other groups of big terrestrial reptiles. There were a lot of different groups of terrestrial reptiles that were super diverse. Unfortunately, Lil Z03, no, because Troodon, the name Troodon belongs to a fossil already. It's just that fossil is impossible to categorize outside of just being a troodontid. But so like post-extinction, there are a lot of other reptiles, or pre-extinction, there's a lot of reptiles. Extinction hits, genetic drift, all these different groups of reptiles, poof, they die out. Dinosaurs are the ones that stick around. And then suddenly you have a huge evolutionary radiation of dinosaurs. And then that same thing sort of keeps happening, except now instead of groups of reptiles, it's groups of dinosaurs. So like you have a wide, diverse group of thyreophorans at the end of the Jurassic. Mass extinction. Now you only have stegosaurs and the ankylosaurids. So yes, I'm involved with paleontology. I'm not a paleontologist. I don't have a degree. I spend a lot of time, researching this stuff, but I'm by no means a leading expert in the field. Hopefully I can call myself a paleontologist sometime in the next couple of years. If things go well, I will be doing something at SVP soonish if my abstract gets accepted, because I'm going to submit it this April. But yeah, so I am involved in the field of paleontology. I do paleontology work. I have experience on fossil digs, and I would consider myself relatively knowledgeable about the field in general and stuff. But no, I'm not a qualified paleontologist. I'm not an expert, as one would say. Could Tyrannosaurus be as smart as a corvid? Obviously not chimp smart, but chickens are deceptively smart. That's difficult to answer. I imagine the Tyrannosaurus was relatively intelligent because it's a predator. It's going good there, Zenosaurus. I'm almost done. You keep coming in right at the end of these. Predators tend to have a higher selective pressure for intelligence and problem solving than prey animals. But also the same is true of flying animals. And so birds have relatively high brain to body ratios, or what we call encephalization quotient. Yeah, my research is paid currently, but it's not funded by a paleontology organization. I work in an ornithology lab doing research that involves paleontology. So my grant is covered in the ornithology department. I know paleontology grants are super expensive, but it's not like there's or super competitive, but there's not like there's no opportunities for paleontologists to do research. And so when it comes to flying animals, they tend to have just much bigger brain to body ratios than terrestrial animals because you need to think faster to fly. And you need to calculate and account for more stuff. But T-Rex didn't really have that. I don't think it was a dumb animal. I think it would have been deceptively intelligent, as basically every animal is. The issue with quantifying intelligence is we have to do it from a human perspective. How would I get involved? Say I got my master's, how would I start? Definitely apply for, ideally through the process of doing your master's, you would figure out and get some experience in a specific area of paleontology. And then from there, you could either do you could do a PhD program, which is what a lot of people do, where they get a grant and they do research at an institution for several years. You could start teaching. You could be a fossil preparator at a museum. You could be a collections manager at a museum. Most paleontology positions are museum related. There's also private paleontology institutions that mostly focus on specimen collection, like elevation science. But there's lots of different spots. Generally, it's going to depend on who you meet during your education and during your other positions, and they'll advise you more on where you can go from where you are, because that's kind of a specific person thing, is like the opportunities that present you have to kind of snatch them. I wonder how intelligent dinosaurs were, because reptiles have smaller brains but compensated by higher neuron density. I don't think dinosaurs were dumb, that's for sure. Some modern lizards are unable to breathe during runs. Were dinosaurs the same? Absolutely not. Dinosaurs are not at all closely related to lizards. They are super archosaurian, which is to say they're not squamates. They're not the group of reptiles that includes lizards and snakes, and they're friends, and sphenacodonts as well, I think. Dinosaurs are archosaurian, which means they have super complex respiratory systems that enable some of the most efficient breathing of any group of animals on the planet. Dinosaurs are crazy efficient breathers. That's true of dinosaurs, crocodiles, birds. Crocodiles less so, but do we know any pre-mammals that are around during the age of dinosaurs? There are loads of them. I could rattle off naming them, not very well, because I don't know a ton about early mammal evolution, but I will say go ahead and look at Rapanammamus. It's a Chinese sort of badger-like mammal that coexisted with a lot of dinosaurs, and is actually known to have predated upon some species of ceratopsians. They're small ceratopsians, so it wasn't going after something the size of Triceratops, but it was eating like Psittacosaurus and its relatives. So yeah, that's the live for tonight. Good discussion. Very happy for everybody that came by. And if anybody has questions to ask me, you can comment them on my videos. I don't upload videos very often. Also, make sure to check out my YouTube channel. I have my my streams uploaded there generally pretty soon. So if you want to rewatch these or get some fun information about anything like that, you can check out my YouTube channel. Yeah, Dilophosaurus and Spinosaurus actually do have some surprising ecological similarities that have been inferred, and I'll talk about that next time. Thanks everybody for coming by. I appreciate it.